Hello, everybody, and welcome back into another quick fire trade reaction video here at the Hockey Writers. I'm joined in by Jacob Strozyk, Fantasy Forecheck co-host. It's funny because you just recorded an episode this morning before this all went down. So some of that's going to be outdated, but we have an update. We'll talk about it on this one. So we got a trade, big one. Probably one of the biggest players that were available, Timo Meier, finally traded to one of the teams that were pretty much rumored to get him, the New Jersey Devils. So the trade was Timo Meier goes to the Devils along with Scott Harrington from the San Jose Sharks, and this is all the pieces that go back to the Devils. So you got Nikita Okhotiuk, I hope I'm saying that right, Andreas Johnsson, Shakir Mukhamadullin, Fabian Zetterlund, conditional 2024 first and a 2023 first. And San Jose is also retaining, of course, 50% of salary because it seems like salary retention are happening all over the NHL right now. So pretty big package in terms of pieces. But Jacob, what do you think about this trade in fact of what the San Jose Sharks got in this trade?
Yeah, it's just initial reaction. It's a bit underwhelming as far as the actual return goes. When you think Timo Meier, he's a huge piece. He's a great player. He's a top six elite forward. So getting just a couple of okay pieces back and maybe one solid prospect back in return. Sure, you get you get the one first round pick and the conditional and the other conditional one, but not having that guaranteed, solid prospect in return, it's just severely underwhelming compared to what you were expecting, especially when you were hearing, some of these other trade rumors for people like Chychrun or otherwise, and these other big name prospects getting tossed around. So you would think Meier would be fetching a similar price for maybe somebody like Alexander Holtz or, a similar caliber of prospect being tossed into that deal. So it's underwhelming to say the least.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of talk about big pieces, like Dawson Mercer was a name that was being thrown around too. And it's funny because even Luke Hughes was even being talked. And I'm sure that San Jose Sharks were talking, asking for that type of thing. But of course, the Devils are like, no, we're not giving up those big pieces. So this all came down. And what's funny is this trade was actually announced way earlier today, but it was officially like all the pieces were announced not that long ago when we record this. So I want to ask you, Jacob, about, you're a fantasy guy. What does this do in terms of the New Jersey Devils for Timo Meier getting added to this team? I mean, the Devils are pretty much, I don't know if they're a Stanley Cup contender, but what does it change with him in the lineup now?
Well, he still adds that big offensive package overall. He plays physical, he scores goals, he gets assists, and he's just that great overall presence that you can add to your top six. From a fantasy perspective, like we said in the earlier show, he's that all-around type player, and he gets you everything that you're looking for as far as, your coverage, whether it be in a points league or a category league. He does a little bit of everything, and he literally just does everything. And that's the long and short of it. So adding Meier to the group in New Jersey is just an absolute win for them, especially considering the price they paid just feels minimal comparatively to what they could have ended up paying and what they should have ended up paying for somebody like him. Their top six just improved dramatically. Stanley Cup contender, you're right, maybe not, but they've now gone from an offensive powerhouse to easily one of the top three offensive, potential teams in the entire league, just as far as what they have available to them in weapons. When your second line center is Jack Hughes, you're already looking at an amazing offense. So putting Meier, whether it be with Hischier or Hughes, it doesn't matter. He's going to get points. So it's going to be absolutely ridiculous to see what he does there with better centers than what he was dealing with in San Jose.
Yeah, and another thing that didn't happen in this deal, there was no contract extension negotiated beforehand. So he is an RFA. So the New Jersey Devils do have team control in the offseason. So what do you anticipate happening here? I mean, right now, obviously, they're not going to be thinking too much about it because he's there for the playoff push. He's there for the playoffs right now. That qualifying offer is a big one. It's $10 million. What do you think will happen with this? Is he signed long-term, or do the Devils go and look at trading him again in the offseason, which probably won't happen? What do you think will happen once the offseason kind of comes around?
I think they're really going to use the playoffs as their chance to kind of sell him on, this is where you should be, this is where we want you to be, and this is where you want to be type deal. So even if he doesn't want the extension right now, they're going to use this as their trial period to get him to buy into what they're building there in New Jersey. They are freshly kind of new at being a good team. They weren't so fantastic for the past couple of years. So him really, diving into how their system works and wanting to be a part of what they're creating there is going to be the key. So will he re-sign? I'm not sure if he'll do it prior to the offseason, but I think there is a real chance that he could do it. And if he does, I'm not sure if it's going to be that, 7-8 year extension, but I'd be willing to bet that he still might sign that short-term 3-4 year extension if he really believes, this team has a great shot within the next couple of years to, push to the next level and actually make it to a Stanley Cup, because the Metro is getting tight. The East in and of itself is already completely crowded with how good everybody is. The Atlantic is as tight as it can come. The Metro is already as tight as it gets. So, competing in that high level of competition is what every player wants. So if he really feels like that's the place that's going to keep him there and eventually get him to a Stanley Cup, I think he'll sign a short-term deal to remain there as he weighs his options and goes into his 30s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a big trade. I mean, Timo Meier, like I said, was the biggest. Well, I'd say he's probably the biggest forward that was available. Also, one of the only RFAs, and all these other guys are UFAs. So, I mean, yep. This guy that's why I do agree this return's a little underwhelming for a guy that, you're getting rid of, that the team that's getting him has a chance to keep him as an RFA, right? And team control, which doesn't happen very often. So let's look at what the San Jose Sharks got in return. I mean, quite a few good players. I mean, they're good. There's no massively great guy on this list. Zetterlund has had a good season. He had a good season last season. Okhotiuk, Johnsson. I mean, these guys are good players. Mukhamadullin, good prospect. Again, not a great prospect. The first round picks, I mean, the 2023 first may be a high one. Sounds like Sharks are not very good, or the New Jersey Devils, never mind. I'll rephrase that. The New Jersey Devils are going to be, it's going to be a low pick. So, I mean, it's not going to be, you're not going to get a high end prospect in that one too. So what does this add to the Sharks? Like we said, could they have gotten a better package from someone else? I mean, pick another team. Vegas Golden Knights was the other one that was kind of in the running, which I don't think they would have given much either.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Vegas goes, they have that problem of they don't really have anything to give. Their prospect pool is about as depleted as it can possibly get. So I'm not sure that they would have had the pieces to offer up for Meier comparatively. And if quality was the issue, then I guess that's what kind of swung it more towards the Devils side. So, or sorry, not quantity. If quantity was more the issue over quality, then I guess that's what would swing it more towards the Devil side, because they have more prospects to offer instead of, that one or two really good ones that, that they'd be willing to give up. So they might have had those, couple of B prospects that they'd be willing to put in, and the Sharks might just want assets at this point. I'm not really sure what the exact plan that Mike Grier has over there is. I'm not privy to those conversations, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to be. But, every GM has their own rebuilding strategy, and if his is just gain as many assets as possible and see what we can build with, then he made the right move of getting a couple of solid prospect players and a couple of first round picks to go along with it. It's not the greatest high end return, but it might have been the one that he was looking for.
All right, well, as we're talking here, there's more that has come out about this trade. So New Jersey's gotten a bit more in this trade as well.
Okay.
I'm looking at this. So I said Timo Meier and Scott Harrington. There's more added. Santeri Hataka, Timur Ibragimov, Zach Edmond, and Colorado's 5th round pick is also going to the New Jersey Devils. So I don't know anything about these prospects. I mean, it's right now I'd have to look these guys up because I have no idea. So I mean, there's more to it going to the New Jersey Devils, but the big piece is Timo Meier. So
right.
This trade is bigger than we thought. Then there's even more to it. Also, 2024 7th rounder going to San Jose as well, added to the guys we already mentioned. So I mean, this is a big trade in terms of quantity, like you said. Quality is going to be debatable. We'll see how all these guys kind of fit into San Jose. I mean, you never know. Mukhamadullin could become a first pairing defenseman. I mean, he has potential to be that. All these guys still have potential. There's no real old players is going to San Jose. They're all relatively young. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, this is all going to be a we'll see trade. This is going to be fun to actually look back on, a few years from now to see how all these guys kind of panned out. Like was that one trade? I think it was the Joe Thornton trade way back when. There was you look back at it now and Boston got basically nothing for Joe Thornton.
They did get nothing.
It's funny how it involved the San Jose Sharks too.
And they put San Jose on the map because of it.
So I mean, Marco Sturm, I know, was a big one part of that, and I mean, a lot of it really didn't pan out for Boston. So I mean, we'll see how this all kind of plays out. But there's more to it. If you want to look that up, there's a few other prospects involved in this as well. So, hopefully there's no more that comes out as we kind of can talk here. I'm thinking that's it. So we'll see. It's going to be a we'll see trade, I think. But before we just kind of briefly talk about some other trades that happened today, what does this do for the Metro? I mean, you said this is a pretty tough division. The Rangers have added Tarasenko. There's rumors that they're going to add Patrick Kane as well, which is probably going to be the next big trade. Carolina Hurricanes haven't done anything. Islanders, they added Bo Horvat. Penguins, nothing. Capitals, they're trading away players. And then we don't have to mention the Flyers or the Blue Jackets because they're selling. So we'll wait for some of those pieces to move. Is there any team here that feels pressure to actually make another big move that they haven't yet?
If it's going to be anybody, it's got to be Pittsburgh. They're the only one that's really in the hunt that hasn't made a move. The Islanders made their big move, and they're definitely glad that they did when they did, because Barzal went down, and now they have Horvat to take that spot. So they still have that person to take that number one center position and still keep them in the running while they're still trying to fight for that playoff spot. Pittsburgh is still trying to rely on the old guard and pray that Tristan Jarry can carry them from a goaltending perspective into a playoff position. But this trade just makes the Metro that much more top heavy. Carolina is still Carolina. If you want to knock them down off their pedestal, you better get a really big hammer to try and pull that off, because my Lord, it's just one hell of a task. If you want to try and knock the Rangers down off where they're sitting, the same thing with the Devils. They just have so much firepower sitting up top there in the Metro. I'm not sure that the Penguins have what it takes to, jump up into that top three where they're sitting. But if they want to take that last wild card spot, they're definitely the team that's in the Metro that needs to make that move because they just haven't done anything yet. The Capitals are going to be selling. They've already, kind of sold off a couple of pieces at this point. So if they're going to do a push, it's just going to be with the group that they have, and it's going to be on the back of Alex Ovechkin's 37-year-old, bones. But that's about how they're going to get there with him. But otherwise, the Metro's top three is pretty set.
Yeah, I'll say so. And the thing is like, really, what other big moves can you make? I mean, Jacob Chychrun is probably your biggest piece now. It's left. Patrick Kane, but I'm going to say he's already basically going to the Rangers. If he does get moved, it seems like that's where he's going. So, I mean, the other pieces that are kind of, Gavrikov's not a really big piece. I mean, he'll help whatever team he goes to, but he's not like a massive blockbuster. Chychrun, I think, is the last one that we're waiting on here to kind of drop. So we'll see when that happens.
We've been waiting on that for about 3 years. So we'll see if that hammer finally drops.
For sure. All right. Well, let's do some quick hits now. And just to kind of recap some trades that happened this morning as we record. Ivan Barbashev, another piece that was rumored to go from the St. Louis Blues, was moved. He was moved to the Vegas Golden Knights. Thoughts on that trade? I mean, the Golden Knights seems like they're able to do some moves. It doesn't really matter who they are. They traded another one of their prospects, Zach Dean. I mean, who do they have left now? Brisson, I think he's the only one.
I don't think they have any first round picks left. I don't think that they've made a first round pick that they haven't traded up to this point. And if they have, then the name is currently escaping me. But they've always been in win now mode, and they refuse to get out of it. And I struggle to look at their roster and go, all right, what player here did they draft? And I think the answer is zero. So, as far as longevity goes, I'm not sure how sustainable it is to continue to trade away your future and all of the talent that you have at the top end of your picks. But, to each their own in the way that they want to conduct that part of their organization. And I wish them luck with it, but I'm not sure how sustainable it is. Barbashev's a good player, and they got a solid deal trading basically a first round pick for him. So, it wasn't a bad deal, and he's going to help him in the playoffs.
Yeah. He could be a rental too. I mean, he's unrestricted after this season. So you give up another one of your top end prospects, or I mean, on other teams, he's probably not a high end prospect, but Vegas Golden Knights, he is. Dean is a good player. I mean, a good prospect. So, when other St. Louis Blues get another one, and they seem to be rebuilding, retooling, whatever they want to call it, doing a pretty good job of it right now. And we'll see if they use any of their, like there's talk they're going to use some of their first round picks to go after some big guys. There was talk that they could go after Timo Meier. Well, that's out the window now. So we'll have to see whatever ends up happening with the Blues now too. All right. The other trade that happened today was Montreal Canadiens trading Dadonov. This is a team that a lot of people thought would do a lot at the trade deadline, but they've had a lot of injuries. So we're able to do something. Dadonov goes to the Stars for Gurianov. What do you think about that trade? I think for the Montreal Canadiens, it's pretty good. You're getting a 25-year-old for a 33-year-old. So for me, I think that's a pretty good gamble to go after.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal definitely gets the win on that. They trade away an older player for somebody who basically does the same type of thing. So they kind of get a bit of a reset as far as what type of player that they're getting. Like you said, Gurianov's 25. He has shown goal scoring potential. He's still a big player, and Montreal needs those types of players that can actually put the puck in the net, especially since Caulfield went down. So it's an all around good trade for Montreal. Dallas gets a veteran. So, I mean, if they didn't really want to hold on to Gurianov, then it's the right move for them too. I don't personally think it makes a heck of a lot of sense to move a young player that does the same type of game. But, at the end of the day, maybe they just wanted the veteran presence. Maybe they wanted that little extra playoff experience. And, that could have been the right move for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dadonov has 20 goal seasons in his history. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has offensive ability. So, I mean, he could maybe turn stuff around in Dallas and as they make the playoffs and, seemed like Gurianov wasn't really a fit anymore. And we'll see if he is in Montreal because he does have a lot of, like you said, potential still. And he had that great playoffs not that long ago, 9 goals in the playoffs. Looked like he was on the rise, but kind of fell off in the last couple of seasons, and he has only 2 goals this year. So seemed like that they thought to move him on, and hopefully does well in Montreal. A lot of young players there, so we'll see how that goes. And then a couple trades yesterday. We'll just go quickly. Nino Niederreiter goes to the Winnipeg Jets, and then the Canucks did a trade with the Rangers, getting Vitali Kravtsov for Will Lockwood. I mean, that's a smaller trade. We'll see. I mean, the Canucks getting another reclamation project. I think that's, again, it's a gamble that could pay off or whatever. If it doesn't happen, Lockwood's more of he's probably going to be a 3rd, 4th liner in his prime. So, you get a young player in return. What do you think about those trades that happened yesterday?
Yeah, Kravtsov going to the Canucks. That's just, the Rangers finally moving on from him. They've been trying to, move him along to the next stage of, his career for a couple of years now. There's been rumors he was wanting to go back to the KHL. He wasn't happy there very clearly. So him going over to the Canucks is going to be a good change of scenery for him. And the Rangers at least got something back for him rather than him just walking over to another league. So that's a win-win trade. Like you said, it's a bit smaller. For Niederreiter to the Jets, it's another simple trade. Niederreiter's always been a solid contributor offensively, decent enough two-way player. So the Jets add somebody that can help them towards their playoff run. So I don't see any negative there in their acquisition. Nashville loses a little bit of offensive upside, but they still have enough firepower up front that they're not really going to miss Niederreiter all that much. He's not really lighting it up this year like he was one of the other years, but it's a 2nd round pick in return. Solid. Yeah. Can't complain about that type of a return for a player like him.
Yeah, and he also has 1 more year on his contract too. So the Jets are getting him next season as well. So I mean, and lots of news coming out of the Predators, actually. David Poile stepping down or retiring, not stepping down, but he's retiring at the end of this season. And then looks like Barry Trotz is taking over the GM job. So the reason why he wasn't going after being a coach, I guess. So the stuff happening in Nashville. We'll see what else happens because it seems like they're kind of selling. So with that, final question here, Jacob, what do you think is happening next? I mean, it seems like the trade deadline is starting to ramp up here. We got less than a week. We got a few days this Friday. So what do you think? Do the other pieces move? Do you see a Jacob Chychrun moving soon? Tanner Jeannot was pulled out of the lineup tonight for the Predators. So he could be on the move. Tampa Bay Lightning sound like destination. I'm not like they need anyone else, but what do you think? What else is going to be happening here?
I mean, at this point, there's not going to be much point in actually covering anything on deadline day. Yeah. It's all going to happen during deadline week this week. So, I mean, as far as the next piece that's going to drop, there's still so many players that have the potential to be on the move. But the one I'm most excited to see is where's Patrick Kane going to go? The rumor, like you said, is the Rangers. I saw something earlier that they were trying to convince him to maybe accept a trade to Edmonton, which would be the most terrifying thing on the planet. But I mean that it's been interesting so far this year, and it's been one of the more exciting years for trades. So I'm stoked to see how they're going to progress throughout the week and who's going to drop next to them, what dominoes are going to fall and in what order. And it's just going to shake things up going into, and I'm honestly surprised how many moves are getting made considering how little cap space so many teams have. So it's cool to see how everything's getting worked, and I'm excited.
Well, I mean, I forgot, just a quick, I said final question, but this one will be, you cover the Sabres. They're in a wild card spot now. What do you see them? Do they make any moves at the deadline? I mean, seems like they're not going to be selling now. Like the Red Wings, they're right in the thick of it. Do you see them adding, or they kind of just try to go with what they got? I mean, Tage Thompson just on an absolute heater, 40-goal season now. What do you see what the Sabres doing?
They're a bit of a different enigma. Me personally, I'd be the kind of person that would be wanting to add in this situation. You want to get that extra player to make the playoff push. I wouldn't see them adding, somebody like Timo Meier to, add in that huge name to really shake up your lineup. So if Kevyn Adams does make a move, it would likely be something a little bit more conservative, but the name I've seen tossed around just because of how shaky the goaltending has been was Cam Talbot from the Ottawa Senators. So maybe they would look at somebody like him to solidify their goaltending a little bit more. They'd get somebody who's been in a starting position, who has playoff experience and is able to actually hold down a net on a more consistent basis, considering Craig Anderson's getting a little too old. He's not going to be able to be playing every single game going towards the playoffs, and he's not going to be able to play, a whole 7-game playoff series. So that's something that is a little bit more realistic as far as what type of move they would make. It would be for a goaltender, or it would be for maybe a third pair defenseman that they can use to kind of round out their D-core, just in case somebody goes down with an injury. Because Hale Clegg has been good for them. Jacob Bryson's been shaky, but that's the two defensemen that they've been using to round out their bottom six. So maybe adding somebody to filter in there and really make it rock solid and get everything patched up before the playoffs start.
It'd be pretty cool to see the Sabres make the playoffs. It's been over a decade since they've been there. So it'd be
damn time.
It'd be about time. They definitely got the pieces. Like I said, Tage Thompson's just an absolute superstar. And he got him from the St. Louis Blues way back when. So it looks like that Ryan O'Reilly trade's looking pretty good at this point.
Pretty good.
just a little.
No complaints here.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's going to be an exciting week to come as we see the rest of these kind of moves get made and what other moves don't get made. We'll see. The Canucks haven't done anything except for the Bo Horvat trade. There's Brock Besser still on the market. Apparently, Luke Schenn has been out of the lineup last 3 games because of that. I don't know. I don't know what's happening in Canuck land. We'll see. I'm not really anticipating much. It doesn't seem like the Canucks do a lot around the deadline, even though they say they will. But we'll see. All right. Well, thanks, Jacob, for joining a quick fire here. We went through a bunch just to kind of get everyone up to speed as we get into a Monday when you guys are going to be watching this, or a Sunday night if you're watching it when I do release it, because we'll be releasing right away here. So whenever you're watching this, we'll see if any other trades happen before we as you're watching. There may be some other stuff that happens. So you can follow the Hockey Writers. Make sure you're following on the website. There's a lot of analysis that comes out after every trade is done. We got trade grades happening every major trade, not every little one, but all the major ones get the trade grade articles. We got everyone covering whatever happens. Keep it locked on the hockeywriters.com, and the YouTube channel will keep doing these videos. If I can find people that can talk to me about that will talk to me about them. And so again, thanks, Jacob, for jumping on late at night, because I know it's a little late where you are. So make sure you're checking out everything, and we'll see you next time on another quick fire trade reaction here.